Good evening. Welcome to the workshop session of the Mayor and City Council of the City of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. We have a quorum present with council members McKenzie, Arnold, and Gay, and so we will get started at 6:03 p.m. I think the first item on the agenda is a Fulton County Schools update.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I am so excited to join you this evening. Is this on, Glenn?
It should be on. Just make sure your voice is elevated. The red light appears to be on.
I'm so excited to join you this evening and bring greetings from Fulton County Schools. We're a close neighbor close by, and looking forward to us working even more closely together going forward. So it's my understanding that you all have a program in process where you're working on a bookmobile. We were very excited to hear about the prospect of this bookmobile, where that bookmobile would go to our College Park bus stops, and the city would distribute books to students. And what got even more exciting is we talked about how we can not only distribute books, but distribute books at the reading level and the interest level of the students. And really we can only do that through a partnership between the city and the schools. So right now the schools are working on developing that list of interest books and the appropriate reading levels for our students. And we are really excited about how we can get students reading. In addition to the books, the students reading those books, we have software programs at the school where after students read their books, they're asked questions. And one of the things that we're hoping that the city can help us with is incentivizing students after they pass those tests after reading the various books. As you know, College Park Elementary School has been on a journey over the course of the last few years. Coming out of the pandemic, it was hit extremely hard in terms of attendance and achievement. And their first testing year after the pandemic, they did end up testing and becoming what's called a comprehensive support school by the state. So they were identified as the state by being a low-performing school. And we've been working with them very closely. So we provide extra supports from the district to College Park Elementary School. The state provides extra supports to College Park Elementary School, and it's paying off. So over the course of the last few years, they've had double-digit gains on their test scores. Attendance continues to be a challenge because regardless of how much we invest in our teachers and academic programming, if the students aren't there to receive that instruction, then we really, they can't benefit from it. So right now, approximately 30% of College Park Elementary School students are what we call chronically absent. And that means they miss at least 10% of the school year. And you know, if you're missing at least 10% of the school year, a school year is 180 days, so that's at least 18 days that 30% of the population is missing. So that's another item that we're looking for support around, and we'd love to partner with the city. Some ideas that the school has asked for is if the city could somehow help with gift cards for parents to incentivize them to bring their students to school consistently. So we have lists of families that we know that are continuing to struggle to bring their students to school consistently, and we'd like to be able to incentivize those families to come and develop some goals in partnership with our attendance department, social work department going forward. Another area where we see a great opportunity is with getting kids to school at the first day of school. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but the state funds a school based upon how many kids are there on the sixth day of school. That's called seat count. That's how we refer to it. And historically, our students within this region they do not always show up by the first day of school. So if they don't show up by the sixth day of school, the school doesn't get funding for that student. There's no adjustment that's made later. So then the teachers that we have are the teachers that we get, regardless of how the class size adjusts based on additional enrollees. So College Park Elementary School specifically, from the first day of school until September, had an enrollment of an additional 86 students. That's almost an entire grade level worth of students that we would not receive funding for if they weren't there by the sixth day of school. So what we're hoping to do is partner with the city to run a campaign that would start at the beginning of the summer and go through that first day of school to really encourage families to be first day ready. Of that 86 students that came that enrolled into College Park in August and September, the majority of them, they came from the local area, so they may not have lived in College Park before, but they may have been in the surrounding area or other surrounding school districts. So we know that they're here. We just need them to register for school prior to the first day of school. And we're hoping that you'll help us with incentivizing that and just launching a campaign around being first day ready for school. Another opportunity we saw was that a lot of the documents that a family brings when they sign a new lease, at a new apartment complex, are the same documents they would use to register for school. So we were wondering, how could we partner with the housing authority or the apartment complexes as we get new families in to go ahead and immediately register for them for school, as opposed to them waiting until the top of the school year. And that might be having our enrollment paperwork there, leaving information around our Here Comes the Bus app, and just how can we really start to eliminate the line between coming into the city and welcoming them into our schools. And finally, just extending that arm out into the broader College Park community to attend our public schools. We know we have quite a few families that I see that attend private schools, and we would love to build their trust, win their trust back into the public schools. So also thinking through how we might be able to incentivize families to come back into the public schools. I would welcome a conversation with private school families, that if you're able to help us identify those families, then together we could partner, because I think that would benefit the city and also benefit our schools. That concludes my comments. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Campbell. This is, of course, we're just getting some of the paperwork, but I do have a few questions, and I'm glad that you and I had a chance to speak before the meeting. I definitely believe in getting books to our students. I think that the more that we expose them to books alone, that can create the interest in learning. An interest in learning gets you to school every day. And as I did the Read to Succeed program when I was running a nonprofit here in the city. So I love the idea. I love the book mobile concept. And, when we start talking about incentivizing, the students will come if the parents, it really starts with the parents. We've got to incentivize our parents, and when we do that, that will hopefully get our kids in the school. When you mentioned the 30% number of students, are we looking at only the public schools in College Park, or is that all of our schools, including our charter schools and our private schools, that number?
So I'm just looking at the data for our public schools.
Okay, it's for the public schools, okay. And then also, I said it before, but I wanted to just let you know again, what I would be interested also in seeing, because I think this will help us in terms of whatever we can do on the city side for incentivizing, helping to incentivize families, is just being able to get some metrics. I'd like to get an idea of how many students that we have currently, what the test scores are for the students in our College Park schools by school, and then also the comparison of those numbers or those scores to the greater Fulton County, so that we can really see, the implications and the need. I think that will help us as a body. I also want to see, I guess even attendance numbers, then that's kind of general. So you kind of letting us know. But I also would like to see where these programs have been done in other schools and kind of what those schools started with, and by the end of a school year or after a quarter, any any improvement that we saw, whether it be in scores or attendance. So I think that when we have the numbers and the metrics, it just makes it a lot easier for us to justify whatever we may be doing as a city. But I want to thank you for coming, and we look forward to working with. I definitely want to work with you. My ward, my district covers the Housing Authority and College Park Elementary School, which are both very dear to me. So I want to see all of our people thrive. So thank you again for coming out this
Yeah,
evening.
thank you for having me. What's the best way to get that data to me?
You can email me. So I will jmckenzie@collegeparkga.com. But I'll reach out to you. I've got your number too. So thank you. In fact, Olivia, my assistant, she'll get back to you. Thank you.
I think it'd be great to get that information for
I will.
everyone.
I'll
And
get
so,
everyone.
mayor and council at collegeparkga.com will get to all of us. But Councilmember Arnold? Thank you.
I'm online here.
All right.
Are we going in sequence?
I will come to you once I go down the line. Councilmember Carn? Councilmember Arnold?
Hi, Dr. Campbell. Thank you for this information. I remember when my children were in school and they had this incentive program encouraging kids to read so many books by the end of the year. Are we still offering those types of incentives as well on top of this?
Yeah, and that's was so exciting about hearing about the partnership, because the school has started this accelerated reader program, and they were getting going. But when we get that partnership with the city, that's just going to amplify the work that the school is already doing. So, for example, if the city is going to be bringing books out to the neighborhoods when the kids are sitting at the bus stop and they're just waiting there for the bus, or they're getting off the bus, and we can hand them a book, that really facilitates the
Gotcha.
kids and their excitement about reading.
Okay. I actually think that it's an excellent program. Anytime that we're encouraging children to read and to stay engaged, it's always a great thing. Thank you for the information.
Councilmember Gay?
Oh, well, thank you, and it's a pleasure meeting you. And a couple of responses to one of your questions about getting the apartments engaged
Yes.
during enrollment. One of the things I noticed, and this may apply to all of the cities, in the Tri-Cities area, the apartment owners, as opposed to the leasing offices or the people that work in the owners are probably the best way to get the information about the children that are in their buildings. And most cities, business license office can provide you their information through just a simple open records request. And a lot of the owners are very engaging, so they want to partner with y'all. And I'm a Fulton County parent. All three of my children, as well as me, I'm Fulton County. So I do understand and appreciate Fulton County Schools. I have not seen my children open one book. So
Oh no!
they use tablets. So
All the books are online.
tablets are big now. And while I have you, I do want to just say this. One of the things that I would like to see more, and that's not what you're here to talk about, is get more involved, y'all, with student discipline, particularly the boys. Trying to look at some alternative ways to manage that. We can kind of talk later about that.
Yeah, and I didn't really speak to culture and climate at the school, but College Park has grown a great distance from just years ago. They have cut their suspension rate down extremely. You walk down the hallway and the kids are sweet, smiling, and doing just as we would love to see kids doing in any elementary school. And the school's actually, the state has a designation for positive behavior, and they've reached the designation of distinguished which is a great honor. So there are great things happening over there. I'd love to extend the conversation about.
Councilmember Carn?
All right, Ms. Campbell, thank you so much for coming out on short notice. We really appreciate it. I just thought it was so important to get this information to the entire body. We've had a couple of meetings, and we had one roundtable meeting with our educational outreach coordinator, who's going to be getting that information to the entire community in terms of attendance and some of the issues and some of the challenges that we're dealing with, the people may not have been aware of. So again, crucial information. A lot of our issues and challenges with our school children are in and around our rental communities. We have a housing authority, and we're pretty high in rental, more so than the average city. So that gives us a lot of challenges in terms of our educational goals. Incentives for our multi-family communities, also dealing with our apartment owners like Councilmember Gay spoke on. We need to figure out incentives from our apartment complexes to keep a resident in a lease throughout the end of the school year, for example. I understand that that's a pretty important factor. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
These type of things. And when she told me about the fact that the first week of school, depending on how many children showed up, they would lose teachers every year. That's something that we can't afford to let happen. So we need to put together a campaign for these parents that move in over the summer that may not be aware that August 4th is the first day of school, and pre-K sign up ends, enrollment ends at this particular date if you want your child in pre-K, because there are only so many slots, so on and so forth. There's just so much information where we have to make folks aware. If they're aware of these things, I think we can improve our outcomes and our educational outcomes overall. And part of the literacy program is improving the outcomes for kids. Kindergarten through third grade is probably the most crucial time in terms of literacy. So we're going to give it a full court press. We're looking to do books, lots of books in our community. We're looking to institute tablets where children and families can have tablets. So we're working towards better outcomes, but we cannot do it without Fulton County and without Clayton County. So I'm glad that you're coming, and we want to hear from you regularly as we work to put together these programs in conjunction with what you all are doing. We're not going to try to reinvent the wheel. We want to enhance what you're doing to bring up your results as well. So just really glad.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell.
Agenda item 2, municipal court presentation, questions and answers. This item will be postponed. Court Administrator Monique Favors emailed us letting us know that Judge Ewing will not be present to present. She's not feeling well.
Okay. I hope she feels better soon. So we're on to Pavilion rentals, right?
Item 3 is discussion on a request for policy consideration to support increase of pavilion rental in the parks to $35 per hour with a max of $350 per day.
Good evening.
So back in May 2024, I did present this information, and we never followed through with having it approved. So it was brought to my attention to add to this to look at some of the park rentals for the pavilions. We're currently at $25 a flat rate, and it's only for residents. So the pavilions can only be rented by the residents of College Park, and that process was through, renting, doing a contract, and there had been some issues with parking at some of the parks, having large numbers, so it was asked to look at the cost for the pavilions. I did not include this in your packet this time, so I apologize, but I did have some comparables from the May that was on that agenda for that workshop item. But something close to us was, Hapeville. South Fulton. City of South Fulton does it at a 30 per hour for small. They go 40 for a medium, and large for a larger rental is at 50. So based on those rates, it was just recommended at doing it at an hourly rate, very similar to what we do to our centers for the renting of the pavilions. So I just wanted to come back and just present and have a discussion on what you would like for us to do moving forward. It is currently $25 flat rate. They do have to prove their residency to do the contract to reserve a pavilion, and those pavilions open up in April, and here we are at March. So I did want to get to y'all and decide if we wanted to keep it where it was. That was fine, but I was asked to look at, looking at what was going on with the surrounding communities. Hateville doesn't currently have any pavilions that I see. City of Atlanta does theirs, and they also offer a bond. That's something I've been talking to risk management about for our facilities also, is do we look at doing a liability insurance, and we can come back and talk about that later. But Henry County does theirs based on a 4-hour rental for $150. They do a resident versus a non-resident. And again, our ordinance for the city of College Park for our parks does not allow, it is actually illegal. It says to be in the park if you're not a resident, which is something we might want to address in the future, because we are doing activities out there that, for parks and stuff. If it's recreation, it's approved, but if you do a special permit, that would be approved, but just something to think about for the ordinance. Fayette County does residents at 30 per hour and 60 for outside. So there's just some comparisons that I looked at to come up with the $35 per rate per hour for the pavilions. And if there's any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mayor Pro Tem?
Hi, Michelle, how you doing? Okay, did we have the comparisons weren't?
They were. Now, I can send it to y'all that
Okay.
I had done in April of 2024 when I put this on the agenda for May, and I do apologize because it was but I'd be happy, I almost send it to y'all this evening, just so you can look at and see. And it was just something to look at and consider. I'm just here so I can finish up the contract so we can move forward on what we wanted to do for April.
Okay, and I do remember something similar to that, but I didn't see it this time, which makes it very difficult to move forward. I think that $25 flat rate has been extremely reasonable and attainable for our residents. I am very concerned about an hourly rate of $35. That in many times, a lot of times the reason our residents are doing something locally in our park is because they don't have the funds to do it somewhere else. So I'm not feeling the $35 an hour. I would be interested in us as a body entertaining maybe a separate rate for persons who do not reside.
Well, it's not rentable to anybody outside the city.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
we were, I know at this current moment, I'm saying an ordinance can be changed. So I would be amenable to look into something such as that, which would have a much higher rate. But if we're staying, I think that we may be able to move above $25 flat rate, but $35 an hour, the average family that's going to use that pavilion is about 4 to 5 hours. Is that correct?
Yeah, typically, it's 4 hours is typically what.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're,
That's the blocks that we did in the past were a 4-hour block.
yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. And it's comparable to what, we do for facilities too, for resident or outside resident.
Yeah, and I understand that. I have gotten feedback, though. I have people have already calling me. They're going up to $150 for the park,
Right.
and they're not happy about that. So I think it's a big jump to go from a $25 flat rate. Can we look at something maybe that's a little bit more? Maybe a $50 flat rate for and I just speak for myself. I don't speak for the body, but I also want to get the comparison to see what the other municipalities are charging. But I do thank you for bringing this back because it is something
Yes.
that we need to look at. So I want to thank you for that.
I was going to make a point. So I understand because it used to be free. It was a free pavilion rental, and then we went to a $25 flat rate for the hour, the 4 hours, and it's a minute behind. But I know there has been issues with the numbers of people, and we even put a capacity on the pavilions. We had Damon come out, the fire marshal, to give us, the numbers because it is parking. It causes parking issues, and our parks are really not all parks have parking to accommodate 50 to 100 people in the park to do that.
And how about this, since you mentioned that? How about having a deposit that, you could have a deposit that may be a little high, and that deposit would be refunded depending on what happens at that event, how the place is left, what additional services were needed that were not brought out in the beginning, meaning I don't know if raising the rate that high is the answer at this time, but I think there's some other things that we could look at that would help us as a city in terms of if we did have issues pertaining to the things that you're saying with parking or more people showing up than they had, that we were expecting, and then enforce it through the deposit. Chief?
With the parks, since I've been back, great parks, we have a lot of people who utilize the park. But it does become a nuisance for law enforcement with a large crowd and having to come out, which takes away from enforcing other things in the city. Because people say they'll have 20, 30 people at an event, and then turns out it's 150, 200 people, and I have to move officers from other places who are working to come and deal with park issues. So it's definitely something that needs to be looked at, maybe not monetary, but some restrictions need to happen because has been an ongoing thing since I've been back.
And that's why I brought that up, because even if we went to $35 an hour, that's not going to stop somebody who's saying they're having 10 people coming from having 50 people. There needs to be something in place that restricts that,
But a lot
or
of times when there's restrictions and money involved, people pay more attention
okay.
to what the rules and regulations are. If it's a $300 deposit, if you break one of the guidelines within it, you don't get it back. Right now, there's nothing.
So,
And I agree.
On enforcement too. So you got to understand that's one of the reasons why when we were looking at the budget modification for, parks falling under recreation, we were looking at the park ranger along with the park attendant. We are taking the reservations as recreation, and we're not there to enforce. It is under, Parks and Grounds to handle that with the park attendants. So making sure that we're collaborating on that so that they can check off, make sure so when it comes back, we've got documentation to say you are not receiving a security deposit or, whatever. So we've got to work, interdepartment to do that to make sure that we're enforcing those rules also.
And so just to put it all together again, I definitely hear where both of you all are coming from. I think that maybe we really should be looking at a deposit that is pretty hefty, and that would be punitive. That would, raising the rental of the park per hour may not be the end-all answer, but I definitely believe that we need to start charging a deposit, and people's refundable deposit. You get it back if you do what you say you're going to do. You don't do what you say you're going to do, you're going to pay. So that would, I'm going to do what it says, but I know I think that would cover everything. So, but again, I'm one person, and I'm going to let everybody else speak.
Councilmember Carn?
Yeah. I'm trying to get off the, hold on, give me 1 second here. There you go. Hey, I'm on the thing. I can't get off of mute here. Let me see.
You're not
get
muted.
off again.
Can
There
hear
we
you.
go. Okay. All right. Well, we want to get to, if the fees are, if that's a proper increase, then I think we're going to be okay. But it never hurts to double check. So I didn't have any questions in particular.
Okay. Councilmember Arnold?
Okay, let me see if I understand what you were sharing a few minutes ago. Michelle, I think we said it's $25 a day, right?
$25 for the rental for a 4-hour.
For 4 hours, which is, approximately $6 an hour. And what is it costing us when it comes to staff having to support or enforce if we need enforcement there?
So that would be so because there's not police out there, at each park during high season. We have an attendant out there that is to clean the park and clean the restrooms. So there's not really enforcement set up unless somebody calls and something's needed to.
Yeah.
Then you have to pay.
Yeah. Yep.
City ordinance, the city parks, and things of that
Yeah, yeah. Because it's gonna cost us something, right? If we have to have someone out there to, can you hear me? Okay, it's gonna cost us something to have, someone out there in the parks to help us with enforcement, and it definitely would be more than $25, right? So maybe we should look at it from that aspect of, if we require that at a certain amount of participants, that they have to have, security, have an officer there, and then whatever that's going to cost, then that is on the person who is renting the facility. It's just a thought.
That works for me because when you have an officer there, and
They can't hear you, I'm sorry.
an officer would be there, and that negates one having to be called. They're there to do a function, just to make sure, no one's parking on the grass.
Right.
The music is not beyond, so it's not interrupting the rest of the neighborhood. They're there to enforce, instead of pulling an officer out of a zone, to come and handle a parking issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Gay.
Great comment.
Well, Ms. Johnson, I really don't, me personally, I don't see a problem with charging more money because in Phillips Park, most of the people that rent it use an employee name, but they don't actually be employees.
Yeah, I was going to
And then
comment on that.
when we go out there, it's like massive groups of people. Not massive, but it's more than what they put on that piece of paper. So one of the challenge for Phillips Park is we really need a larger pavilion for groups, because a lot of large groups coming out there, they'll take 2, 3, 4 pavilions just to accommodate. Like one of the church members will call me, the choir want to come, they take 3 pavilions. And when that happens, $25 is not a lot of money. I mean, you can spend that in Dairy Queen, and you get a full, safe space for all day. Then when they leave, we got to clean up. I mean, they do clean, but we still have to clean up. And as Chief said, we got to bring officers. And a lot of the people I see at our parks, they look like they can afford to pay, because we providing them a safe space, a nice space with amenities. So for, if there's a situation where somebody can't pay, then maybe you need a fee waiver section to apply, maybe, but that's just not what I see. And we have one of the largest uses of parks. I just don't see it being a monetary issue. The other thing is that a lot of people go to that park and they don't even go through y'all. They just show up and they just be out there. So there's always ways that we can improve the city's involvement with these parks, especially Phillips Park.
I was thinking primarily of Phillips Park in regard to this conversation, because I think that's where we see most of the activity, because we have the most available space in terms of pavilion usage there. When we talk about events here, we say if you have a certain number of people, you need an officer. And what is that number that we typically say, like, if an event has so many people? Chief, anyone?
You might should just stay down.
I was just going to say, and I'll discuss what the loads are for the pavilions too, so that you can be aware.
It depends on the activity, what kind of event is being taken place. Then, we may suggest that you need an officer for crowd control and, deterrence, to protect all those involved. But with what I've witnessed, during the park season, it started out fine. People said they're having a family reunion.
Right.
And then it turned into a block party.
That's right. Yeah.
Auntie tell her kids tell cousins tell best friend's friend, and when she initially did the contract, yeah, it was supposed to be 50 people. Now you got 300 people who are parking all over the place, and I'm getting calls, we need to move because they should be moved. It becomes an issue.
Understood, understood. I was actually, the question I was asking was in regard to when folks do special event permits. I think there's a pretty standard ratio that we say, right?
Right, but that's not using the pavilions. It's not.
I understand.
included. Yeah, so I just want to make sure. So if those special events, they're not. We don't give the pavilions unless they request it and it's not rented. So, but yeah, the numbers for like Phillips Park, if they're doing something on the
And that's something that we can look at, you guys can look at as a body and say whatever the ordinance, if it's $50, 50 people per pavilion, then you have to have an officer.
Right.
It's whatever we make it to make sure that it's staying within guidelines and everybody involved is okay.
Understood. I was just trying to, I just knew that there was some number that we typically.
It really depends
On the event
type
itself? Okay.
but we know that especially Phillips Park get a lot of the pavilions are rented throughout the spring and summer. There's no guidelines that we can't create something in the ordinance and put a cap on it.
I'm just thinking about, say you've got that family reunion and you were expecting the 50 people, you didn't think you were going to need a police officer. Do we have something, and I forgive me for not reading the actual contract with sufficient detail, but is there something in there about if you exceed what you've told us, we have the right to shut you down?
So when they sign the contract, depending on what pavilion, I mean, we're talking about the most this one pavilion will have will be 50. The rest are like 16, 32, and 28. It's when they take two pavilions. And now they're talking about double amount, which is what she's saying, and then you have ongoing. The other scenario, like Councilman Gay was saying, is that you may have a resident that rents, and it's not for them, and we say they have to be there for the full time, and they're not. So those are some of the things that do happen, that we are the cheapest to rent from. Therefore, we are being looked at from people outside compared to our surrounding communities, that we are being favorable for wanting to come because we are the least. Whether it's a resident renting it or not, and they're not there saying that it's, I mean, all we can do is fill out the information, go by the information provided to us. But one pavilion, pavilion number 1 at Richard Park is 50 people. That's the most that will be held. That's one of the biggest pavilions. So everything else is 16 or 28 or 32 based on the square footage for them.
So do we have something in the contract that says if you exceed our numbers, that we have the right to shut you down?
I think at the time, if they don't leave or if they're not following instructions, they can. But as far as if there's numbers, we do not have that.
So maybe that's.
To read from a law enforcement perspective, if because that's there, if we do find a resident employee who let somebody rent it, if they do violate, then you can't rent for a year.
Right, I get that.
But we need to stick to it to really enforce, because the parks become a nuisance.
Understood. Understood. Absolutely understood. I want your officers to be able to say, hey, we were renting this pavilion. Y'all renting this. There's 50 people. There's 75 here. You have 10 minutes to clear, or the whole party gets shut down.
We do that anyway.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, great then. Oh, excellent. So in regard to employees, they would pay the same rate as anybody else?
So what we've typically done for any employee would be half is what we've done in the past for any facility.
Would that be? So,
For programming too. For programming, yeah.
That's why I asked the question.
But it was a discussion that they're not residents, so they're getting a privilege of renting something that is not offered based on the ordinance, that you have to be a resident. So again, that's been across the board with recreation for facilities, rentals, and for programming.
So that's another element of
An
something
element to think about.
to think about.
Because of the ordinance saying it is, it's not lawful if you're not a resident to be in the park, is what our ordinance says.
Understood. I understand in the past you did deposits, correct?
We used to do a $25 deposit, and it was free, and it was refunded if it was cleaned up, correct? $25 refund.
Administratively, I thought I understood.
It just takes a lot of time to do what that is.
Would it be simpler if the deposit was more, or is it?
That's what I think.
I'm just asking. Would a deposit be administratively something that?
As far as time-wise,
Yeah.
if it's, what we require is only credit card, it's a click of a button to get
Okay.
back the
Okay.
refund. That's very simple, but getting from the park attendant that everything was checked off and okay would be the delay on giving back the refund. Does that make sense? Because
Yes.
it's not recreation out there checking it. It would have to be making sure that they're communicating back to us. Either they had a problem in a timely manner so that we could let and give them notice that they're not getting their refund back and why. That may take more time on the dispute portion on, well, I cleaned up, I didn't clean. Those are some of the things that would happen that would cause the refund not to be given back.
I think just from I think you either get it or you don't. Because if you start nickel and diming people, then it seems like that might be an issue of whatever that deposit is. So it's 100, 150, 250, whatever it is. I think whatever it is, you either get to keep it or it's returned. Because I think,
We'll lose a portion of it for the credit card, but that's
Oh,
that's
right.
not a business.
sure. But I don't dislike the deposit idea if administratively it's just a click of a button. But regardless, I think we need to.
And it makes sense with the deposit. Our goal is to enforce the rules.
Absolutely.
That's the whole goal, is to follow whatever the rules are, and if you're not following the rules, then you don't get the privilege of bringing the privilege.
As long as people know what they're signing up for.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think also one of the things we're looking at, for me, it's, and I don't disagree with the things that my fellow colleagues have said, cheap versus and fair. Yeah, we are cheap. I mean, $25 is nothing. And, but my concern initially is raising it to that extent. I don't have a problem. I think that we are charging probably too little. But it should be, I believe that we need to kind of look at this ordinance and maybe even sit down more, it's for you, to give you the opportunity to kind of bring us some other options aside from just the $35 an hour. And maybe we will increase it to an hourly, or maybe we will increase the flat rate. But I definitely believe that we need to look at a deposit. And as the mayor said, it's, you either get it all back or you don't get it back. And I think that maybe that might be the first step here, is to collect because if we have anything happen during that time that would cause us as a city to have to send police officers, someone else out to clean, that deposit not being refunded is going to cover that. But for the average group that comes, at least to Barrett Park, we're going to clean up. And we're going to do what, we don't have the same type of issues. And so that's also, to me, it's also situational. I can't speak for Zup Park, but we have heard that, there's more activity during the summer months at Phillips Park. So I don't know if we want to look at it a park by park basis. I'm going to fight for my park to stay pretty much where it is, but I would not fight against all parks having a deposit that's it's either refundable or you don't get it back.
Yeah, and a good point, because when we look at the amount of people, even when we looked at doing the mini pitch at Zup Park, the amount of people, they did a heat map to know the amount of people that were coming into Phillips Park. It is a lot more people compared to Barrett and to Zup. The only thing is that it's very difficult to pinpoint whose participant was what, at what pavilion, who rented it, to know who violated anything, whether it's parking. So it's different than in a room rental. you know who's in that room. In a park, somebody may go up there and somebody may come down, and you don't know who was a part of what rental. So it may be very difficult to find those or not give back to not know exactly who was, because there's more than multiple pavilions at all the parks.
Ms. Johnson, I'm sorry, are you finished?
I was just going to say one more thing. But that, again, is going to be a problem whether we charge 35. And I do know, I heard what Chief said, the more you charge, the least, one of you all said, the more that you pay, the less likely you're going to violate. But there's another school of thought out there. I paid for this, so I'm going to do whatever I want to do. So I feel no matter what you do, there needs to be this deposit, just if we don't put a deposit, if we don't enforce some type of a deposit, then you still just have an hourly rate or a flat rate. We're still going to deal, and even with the deposit, we're going to deal with it. But at least we have a recourse. That's all, ma'am.
What about, so we've got pavilions that go up to, the largest is 50, you said? And I don't dislike the idea that South Fulton is charging different rates for different sizes. What if we kept the 25 for the small one and medium 50 and large 75, did a 150 deposit that you get back? Or if it's small and large, whatever.
So one pavilion is a load of 8, one is 36, one is 24, 16.
Maybe it's like up to a dozen, up to 2 dozen, and 3 dozen and above, or something like that.
That's what she just paid.
Chief, could you make sure that you're close to the microphone so everybody can hear?
If it's like from 1 to 20, occupancy is $25, 20 to 35. It's 35 to 50 is another number.
Sabrina.
Councilmember Carr, you're off of
Can you
mute.
come right here back, please?
And then a 150 deposit. Because I understand that time is of the essence. I'm sorry. Mr. Curry, you're trying to tell me something and I can't understand what you're saying. I don't know. That's not up to me to do that. Mr. Curry, you're sending me hand messages and I can't. Councilmember Carn, can you go on mute, please? Well, yeah. All right. Well, let's keep on moving. Because I understand the time is of the essence on this one because rentals start in April. So.
Buying the playground, that's a
1 to 24, 25 to 35, 36 to 50 is just the breakdown that I had with the 150 deposit. If we went 25, 35.
Okay, tell me to pull it right here, Mike. Tell me to pull it right here.
What do you think?
You said,
Councilmember Arnold,
I'm sorry.
make sure you speak up.
You said 1 to 25.
1 to 24.
1 to
So
24.
we've got, you've got a load of 8, which was the smallest, 16, and then it goes, the next is 24, so that 1 to 24.
Gotcha.
Then you've got a 28, a 36, and a 50.
So 25 to 50, or would you?
25 to 35, and then you get 36.
Can you join us for one
Okay.
picture and then come back?
And I think you want to double, 25, and then 50 for
And then also still have the 150 deposit. Sounds fair.
Hey, doctor, y'all make a motion.
Yeah.
Hey, doctor.
25, 35, 45?
I'm distracted.
But I understand. But
From 1 to 24 occupancy, it'd be $25, just like it is.
Okay.
From 25 to 35 individuals, it'll be a $35 fee. From 36 to 50, it'll be a $45 fee and a $150 deposit for all of them.
Okay.
I like it.
So, and that's a flat rate. You're staying with a
Yes.
flat rate. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I
Yeah.
wanted clarification.
I like it.
Good. Councilmember Gay?
I'm okay with it.
All right, so there's consensus on that. All right, that makes sense.
Okay.
All right, and you're on the next. You're the next
I am
presenter as well.
next. So Councilman Carn had asked for an update on the fee waiver, so I wanted to come back and just provide, do you have the slideshow, everybody? Some information. It took us a little while. We had to go back in and calculate the number of participants and the number of residents for each programming. It was, so it's just an overview, and that overview was for the fee waiver overview for youth participants for qualified City of College Park residents making $50,000 or less. To the next slide. So on January 16th, it was approved to implement the fee waiver program for the recreation and cultural arts for all of College Park residents and household incomes less than 50, and to implement aggressively and immediately. The action was approved on April 1st, and the cost approval was with a $15 registration fee that would be added to programming moving forward. And we implemented that in July for the $15 registration when the new fiscal year came about. So that programming included city programming, any programming that we put on, along with contractual programming, along with another type of contractual program, which is the 75-25 split programming. Next slide. The types of programming for city programming is our basketball, gymnastics, flag football, cheerleading, track, aerospace. It actually is a contract program, sorry. Day camp, soccer, and volleyball. So, and then the contractual, there is kids gym, anything that we bring in, 100% comes into the city, and if that contract states, they get 75% back. So if that somebody was a fee waiver, that we would pay them the 75% back to that contractual program. Next slide. So the flyer was put out. It's obtained online. We've started implementing them on all of our programs. So any information that we put out, whether it's contractual or not, that we would put and notate that the fee waiver is available and that they can apply. We implemented a QR code. Staff went out to the apartments along with police to help us with community policing. They can submit to Tanya LaPlache, who is the center supervisor / athletic coordinator at the Conley Center. She gets all the applications, reviews all the information, and determines if they've met the requirements in order to do that. And there are stipulations for that requirements, and I'll go over that. But typically, so I gave an information on the next slide, and I do have a date wrong on here, but for FY24 revenue, we brought in $974,588.68. That was July 1 through June 30th of 2023 to 2024. And then currently I did a financial through July 1, 2024, and that should be December 31st, 2024, to be 492. So we're going to probably bring in a little over $1 million for this fiscal year based on spring is a big time for us for registration. For that current programming, for the initial, we are looking at 1,898 participants. This is not a click of a button to find out. Staff had to go back and actually see what programs were offered from when we implemented it to December, and go through and literally put in the addresses of those participants and find out who's resident, who's not resident, to give you the numbers of how many participants we have. So it's a little bit of a process to find these numbers. I can give you a click of everybody in there or a program, but to break them down of those programs that actually have been happening since we initiated this. So we were at 1,898 participants for the fiscal up to July 31st, 2024. 109 of the city residents that were participants. And of that, we had 15 applicants. 9 were approved. The breakdown for those programs are also on there. And then we had 4 denied, and then we had 2 incomplete. So if they don't provide us the information, we can ask for it. If they don't give it, we can't complete the process on that. The revenue that we generated from adding that $15. That was added July 1, because we didn't want to do that in the middle of we had people already registered, so it was difficult to add that on when we looked at April, because spring was full, so we looked at for the fiscal year to add the 15, and we're looking at about $26,000, close to $26,500 that was created to help offset that, not receiving that money for the city to kind of offset for that fee waiver. And then the loss of revenue, as you can see, between the total revenue loss was $7,000, $27 was city program, $1,100 was for that, and that you can see that registration is covering those costs for that. So next slide. The application requirements, they have to fill out the form, a copy of their driver's license, then a copy of their utility bill, and make sure it matches the driver's license. Copy of it's not a tax return, but it's a tax return transcript. This is what finance had asked for us to, and it's what we've done with some of the senior fee waivers for the utilities, so it's a very similar process. And they will have to reapply each year. We're looking at that April 15th after that tax income that they'll have to reapply for it to continue on for that each year. Some of the issues that we would have is the driver's license wouldn't match the utility. I know that seems really silly, but we've got to prove somehow, some way, either their lease would have to prove that, because a school record is not going to do that, because we take kids from College Park Elementary that are not all from the city of College Park. So we've got to make sure somehow if they can provide a lease that shows their name on it, that shows that address that the driver's license had, because we are trying to accommodate the best way we can for those meeting the fee waiver application. And then the next slide. Fee waiver promotion, putting on the flyers, distributing in the apartments. We work with the housing authority. Bruce Morgan contacts me day and night. He lets me know who he's got to participate, and work with him. Distribute in the schools. Information is posted at Brady and Conley, the Wyatt Center, and then the QR code helps with access on going straight to that application process. It is on our website, so that information is there for anybody to pull at any time. That's the information. So, any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I've got a few. Okay, I don't know if you know this, Michelle, but City Manager, do we know how many households we have in the city of College Park that are have an income of $50,000 or less? Do we have that number? Okay, I'd like to get that number so we know in terms of what part of our population this would apply to. So I didn't expect you to have that
Yeah, it's
answer.
probably census.
Because I think that'll kind of help me with the next piece. So I see that of whatever that number may be, and the 1,898 participants that we have in our recreation programs, that 190 of those persons are city participants. So the 190 of the city those are part of the 9 applications that were?
Correct. We
Okay.
went through all the registrations and entered all those addresses in to make sure they were within the city.
Okay, so with the 9 that were approved, I see that next to the different programs, you have 16. Does that mean that it was 16 youth that participated? I'm trying to get an idea of the 9 applicants that were approved, how many youth
They're
that?
all youth. These are all youth. This is only approved for youth.
Oh, right, that's what I'm saying. The 9 applications, meaning how many youth, meaning the applications are per household, correct? Or is it when you say applicants, are we talking about 9 youth?
Correct.
Okay, so
Yeah,
not
could be
9
3 in a
households.
household if they were approved. I did not do that breakdown. I didn't.
Okay, so 9 youth altogether, and of those 9 youth, they participated in 16 or 16, whatever, 16,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so the 15, I guess my concern is how many households made up these 15 applicants or these 9 youth that
So
got?
if there's 3 in a household, I'd have to go back and
Yeah.
with Tanya on that. I did not. I can follow up with that.
Okay, so, because that number is really, really low, and I do see the means by which, I just still think that as a city, Michelle, this has nothing to do with you, as a city, we need to do better in being able to get the word out. It's just every time we have an event, everybody in our city's not on social media. Everybody's definitely not looking at the College Park website. You're only dealing with the persons that actually go to recreation programs if we advertise at the rec center, which we need to do. But I'm alarmed that out of all the apartment complexes and the homes that we have, and that's why I would like to have the number of households that make less than 50,000. I think we really got to make a concerted effort to get the word out, because we should have way more than 9 children in the city.
So again, remember when we implemented in April, some of the programming was already going, along with July for summer camp. People had already registered. So some of those people, it didn't hit. So we have not hit a full year on some of the biggest programs. Spring is one of our biggest times for registration, for outdoor programming, for summer camp, spring break. So it is a glimpse of what's going on. And yes, we've met with communications on trying to figure out how we can promote more. And so part of it is new. So we've got to figure out what we can do to hit those areas. But we've got not, of 190, we probably have over 20,000 people that participate in different programs throughout the year. They might be repeat people. Gymnastics is one of them.
Right.
Karate is a monthly basis. So you've got one person that is a resident that they're repeatedly, and so they're going to get counted as twice. So if you're looking at the 190, gymnastics could have repeated numbers in there because we're looking at sessions. We've had summer session, fall 1, fall 2 that hit during that, and they may be repeat people. That's only one person.
Oh,
So
now you confused me a little bit more.
Well,
Okay.
we're going to have people re-register.
Okay.
So if you've got somebody that's a participant registers all year long in 4 sessions of gymnastics, that number's not going to increase.
That's one person
That's one person.
who's participating in 4 programs.
Right,
Yeah.
so that one person that's in 4 different things, are they counting as 4
They could be.
participants?
Because when you're talking about 450 kids in a participant, we'd have to go in and do a forensic on looking at who is re-registered for that.
Got it.
I
Okay.
don't know if that makes sense.
No, I
Karate-
understand. No,
it's,
so
it's hard. It is really, it's hard because karate is done on a monthly basis. So if they have 10 people in January and 10 people in February, we've got to go through and is there somebody new? Is there not? So they're looking at the rosters to come up with the data on that.
Okay, so my final question is based on, and some of you've kind of answered because you're saying that we're moving into another season. But looking at the results that you got, which are good, I'm glad we got someone involved. What would you do differently in this upcoming year that, over what you did last year for this program? So looking at your results or these results that we have right now,
Yeah.
what kind of a different approach would you have?
Yeah, getting advertisement out there. But again, you can still, and you and I had a conversation about this, when you talk about free something and putting some skin in the game, you can offer free all day long. It just doesn't always bring the numbers that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't-
it just, either they're interested in it or not interested in it. But we can certainly do better on trying to get the information. And it's fairly new. When we're looking at July, less than 6 months, which is the information that we went through to December 31st. Because we even had track registration started. So how do we start that? We started in December or January, February, and they start in February. So we didn't include that information. So you want to make sure it's the full registration wasn't over with.
Yeah. So we do. We want to keep on looking at this on how to get them in, but also the retention, because the value that's associated with something that's free sometimes is not as great as when we have some skin in the game. So although we want to make this accessible to all of our families, we want our families to value what is being given too. So we'll continue the conversation.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about the number of residents and the impact in the years of changing, living in College Park. South Fulton used to be a part of College Park. So people have moved away, but they're still bringing their kids back that may not live in the city anymore, but they feel valued to come back because they grew up here. So, the numbers is something we can increase, but you can't they've got to want to participate in it.
Exactly. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you.
Councilmember Arnold?
So I think that, well, and it's just a suggestion that maybe Mike Hicks can help with running the reports and making sure that we get distinct numbers, opposed to the repetitive, like if you have one person that registers for karate and they're being counted 4 times, maybe there's a way to query the system to just pull that family or that person one time so that we can get better numbers. But
They are receiving the fee waiver for that month, though. So it is a registration for that class. Does that make sense? So they might do January, not come back February. They might do February, March. So it is a registration, and we'd be waiving that fee for that month.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does now.
Okay.
I think that it got to be confusing though when you were having the conversation with Mayor Pro Tem.
yeah,
So
with the gymnastics.
yeah, okay.
So
So basically, this is the number of fee waivers, not necessarily looking at the number of families
Correct.
or
Correct.
households.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Right. I think
Yeah,
that's where the
it's
clarification.
households.
That's where we need the clarification, right? So we're actually counting the number of fee waivers.
Correct.
So it wouldn't even matter if it was and I'm just
Yeah.
picking a number, if it was 5 to 1 household, because of the fact that if you did it 5 times, you just get it 5 times regardless to
You get
the
fee
address.
waivers for the year.
Got it.
Per se. So those 9 participants out of the 15 applicants get it for the year because they've submitted everything, whether all in one household or 9 different households, it is one fee waiver, and it's for all programming. So it's for, if they choose to do karate, if they choose to do gymnastics, if they choose to do, they've met the requirements for free programming.
Understood. Makes sense now. Okay, thank you.
Wait, I was there,
lost you,
but
didn't I?
you lost
So
me.
once they qualify for the fee waiver
Yes.
in the system, anything they register for moving forward is free.
So, yes, I understand. So
So it's
So-
not an equivalent.
So looking at its packet, page 17, is your slide. I'm sorry, Councilmember Gay.
No,
I-
you're fine.
So the data, 9 approved. So is that 9 fee waivers, or is that,
So 9 applicants actually applied and received the fee waiver.
so there's 9 children,
Correct.
and no matter how many programs they participate in, it's one fee waiver.
Correct.
Understood.
Yeah.
Councilmember
Now it
Gay,
makes
thank
it-
you so
right.
much.
It's the
All right.
applications that we
Just,
counted.
just had to walk through that one more time. Councilmember Gay?
I think they've answered all the questions. I did want to just add to this conversation. It's not so much about fee waiver, but I think maybe we should use the utility bills to get more information to the apartment community, because they don't look at the LEDs but I also want to say this is an opportunity to also look at, maybe not now, but just in the future, offering more recreation in general. I mean, we got one of the greatest programs, but there's just so much more we could be doing. I mean, there's everything from aquatics to gaming to boxing to skateboard. I mean, I could just go on and on, but when you just got basketball and dancing and that's it, basketball and dancing and football, there's so many more communities we might even need to do a study. Just look at more passive recreational opportunities for our community. That's why we work so hard at Phillips Park to try and add so many different amenities. Just thought I'd just jump in right on that. But the utility bills would be great, because even the soccer field, I mean, it's less than 5% of our residents use that soccer field, but it's packed. I mean, it's packed with people, but the residents are not there. So what's the point?
Well, so, that's a good point, but like I said, when people are looking for recreational programming, they're looking for specific, my child wants to do whatever it is. And they reach out to wherever they see either the closest facility to participate. So residents wanting to participate has got to be the first thing that if the kids want to participate in it. As far as activities, yes, we had more space. We have school rooms next door, after hours. We could do all kinds of activities. I mean, there would be after hour programming because our biggest thing is the space for doing any other type of activities. Right now, we're looking at the 3D printing and programming, and how do we work that in with the program that we already have going on with what their needs are. And so it's absolutely something we want to offer, anything that a child would be interested in. But getting a resident to be wanting to do recreation is the first thing. And they've got to want to do it to reach out. Even though we offer free programming, that may be something added to it, but it's all in the interest of the child, is really what a parent's looking for. And being able to have our residents to come here than having to go somewhere else for programming is certainly an added benefit to it, that they don't have to leave our city to do whatever they may be interested in. So yes, some other activities would be wonderful.
And just one other thought, there could be we might have a partnership with our schools. I know College Park Elementary, Main Street Academy, their facilities are available in the summer, but they don't use them. So, we could probably look at partnering with them to add more activities, Just brainstorm.
Councilmember Carn?
Thank you, Michelle. Good information, a little bit disappointing. Communications and awareness, as I keep saying, there are literally hundreds of parents that would be very interested if they knew free programming was available. In addition to that, if they knew what the programming was. Most of our residents don't check the city website. Most of our residents may not be on the newsletter. With communications, again, we have to organize communications where they can reach each and every resident in the city. The bulk rate communications newsletter that we have is a broad list of 12,000 emails from everywhere. And we have no idea what percentage of that are city residents, visitors, or folks from all over the country. So again, we have to put together a communications system where we can actually reach the residents most in need of these services. The residents most in need of these services aren't aware of these services. So a big problem is awareness in terms of communications. Connecting with our schools. This is why I asked the Area 1 Superintendent, Ms. Campbell, to come to this council meeting, and she's going to start to come regularly and give updates, but she's providing great info to our educational outreach person who's working towards putting together these projects that we are going to be doing with the books and the literacy program. But our teachers are an invaluable resource. We want to know what the kids are plugged into or tuned into or what they'll be receptive to. Our school teachers probably spend more waking hours with our children comparable to the parents. So they're going to have tremendous insight. One of the things, Michelle, I want Parks and Recreation to do is start connecting more with these schools on a regular basis to get an understanding of what our children are interested in. The 10% of our participants in our program, the 90% of the children that are in our programming that don't live in the city, they're interested, they're doing well in the programming. We want to get our children interested, and that comes through a process of connecting with these teachers, connecting with these schools on a weekly basis to see what's going on, what's popular, what will they do, what won't they do. And again, if they don't know about it, they can't be a part of it. The numbers are, like I said, disappointing, but the numbers I think will take care of themselves. We just need the general public awareness to city residents and a system that effectively gets the awareness out to folks. So I know we provided you with a Sprinter van. Now, I know the last time you asked about it, we were going to use it for trash pickup, so I'm hoping that's not the case with this Sprinter van. But we want to be able to pick up kids that are in need of transportation and come up with a system for that. But we got to get awareness to get the interest. So let's keep working at it. And I mean, we're off to a start. It's not the best start, but once we tighten up communications and you all are communicating constantly to them and the schools, I think maybe we start to have a workable deal. Also, with our multifamily rental community, if they know about these services, they may stay in College Park longer if they know that there's free programming available, which would extend our students through the whole school year, which is a big value to our school system, which would up our educational outcomes and test scores and the like if they stay longer. So, but they don't have incentives to stay longer. We have them available, but they don't know their incentives that would make a parent say, hey, I'm going to stay in College Park longer because now I know, hey, they got free recreation programming that I couldn't afford anywhere else. So we got to start connecting these dots with the different departments and tools we got available. So I think we're off to a good start, but we got some ways to go.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Is there any way to turn up the heat in here? It's freezing. It's very cold. Thank you.
Item 5 is a presentation from Charles Green and members of the College Park Gardening Circle to support community gardens throughout the city of College Park, sponsored by Mayor Pro Tem Jamel McKenzie.
Good evening.
Good evening, Charles. I got a heater.
I know. When my nose gets cold, I know that it's too chilly. Mr. Green, would you mind pulling the microphone up closer? Thank you so much.
I'll try to move along since I know this meeting is running longer. Is there a slide presentation? I'm here to introduce a new nonprofit that's been formed over the last year called College Park Garden Circle that has a mission and goals to enhance the experience and opportunities of community gardening around our city in all 4 wards, as well as contribute to the development of more green space around our city. Next slide, please. We are just a bunch of College Park neighbors who all share a passion for good food, green spaces, and healthy families. We are organized as 501c3, and we're a membership organization, meaning we're going to be soliciting members as time goes on to try to get a broader amount of support that will help people express their interest with a small check and being able to access our garden space. We, this is a little outdated. We had 7 local directors. Now we have 9. I know that Grace is here, Holly is here, Tito is here. Anyone else that wants to be director, see me after the meeting. Our mission, quite simply, is that the College Park Garden Circle will develop and support College Park community gardens to foster better neighborhood fellowship, health, and bountiful green spaces. Now, what is a green community garden? How does that relate to green space? Community gardens might be vegetable gardens. It might be landscaping gardens that just take an empty city-owned lot that's not going to be developed anytime soon, and encourages and organizes neighbors to come forward and landscape it and make it a very pleasant place to drive from. But as you think of it most, it is about garden plots and giving people space, training, opportunity, and resources to grow food. We have a lot of food desert in this part of our city. And I know even from here, we do, in Center City here, we've got Eating Fresh. But a lot of neighbors have to drive a long way to get to something like a Kroger or a Publix that's close to their home. Our goal at this moment, we're seeking feedback, membership, and engagement from other gardening enthusiasts across the town. We want to develop a master plan for garden development and list target neighborhoods across all wards. And when I'm talking about master plan, I'm talking about how we would set up a garden site, a resources that we would use would kind of become a template rather than reinventing the wheel every time we found a piece of land. And that way we can organize our resources and support and promulgate those hopefully a lot faster. We would like to recognize there are already several community gardens here that are thriving, and we don't want to compete with that. We want to be a resource to them. We can partner with them to deliver more resources and better support for what they're already doing. We'd like to develop an infrastructure playbook to help all community gardens around the city lower their costs, leverage planning, and do a better job of engaging the community to make people aware that those resources are there and how they can access them. And finally, create a management template to recruit neighborhood captains that will encourage others around them to grow food in their own neighborhood and engage in managing each local site. So there's, like I said, a playbook to how you would do this, and everyone does have to do their own around reinventing the wheel. A quick shout out to Councilman Gay and Karn for the development of that community botanical garden idea, which is an enormous success and it's going to be an everlasting asset in our city. I think we'll all be proud of. And if we can be a resource to that effort, please let us know how to do that. So can the city support our effort? Of course, they can. We're not looking for an allocation tonight, but we do look to collaborate with the city to help identify unused lots that might be used to create gardens in different neighborhoods. We'd like your input on our management template, this guidance and support about how we get more ingrained in many neighborhoods and people we may not know. We are looking for directors in other wards. We're kind of a Ward 1 group at this minute, and we'd like to reach out and involve people from the greater area. We want to seek collaboration when we're looking at a master plan for the gardens and know what's possible and what's out of bounds for in terms of what other concerns that we're not thinking about yet. I think zoning or use permits and so forth. Hopefully, the city might help us look at grant funding opportunities that might be coming from the federal level, or block grants that are designed, at least in the last administration, to foster more gardening and people getting better access to healthy foods. And at some point, we may ask you to invest in this community effort so that our infrastructure can develop and really have its best outreach across town. And with that, questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mayor Protem?
Well, Charles, you know I'm just totally stoked about this and excited as a fellow gardener. I'm a food gardener, so I'm not really into the flowers. I mean, I love the flowers, but I'm just not good with the flowers. But I'm good with the groceries. Okay, so I'm really excited about this effort. Just thank you for putting together this team. This was just a vision that we had, and you know, vision is only as good as the feet that grab it and run with it. So I want to thank you and all the members, and I know you guys have been meeting since last year. Seems like it's maybe almost more than a year now on this project. So thank you for coming to us. I am in communication through our federal lobbyists now with John Ossoff does have some funding for community gardens. Councilman Gay and I both are looking to receive funding in that area. And there's some other, David Scott's office had at one time discussed this with us. So we would love to see this. I think this is a great way to get the community involved. It's a great, something our seniors are, many of them are gardeners. It gives them an outlet, but it also mends the divide, and I don't mean divided, but the divide in terms of the space between the senior community and the youth. I want to just shout out again to Holly Rodriguez, who got this going. So I would say one of the first projects that you all have is the garden at Brady, and even the collaboration that we have been able to through your organization and your partners and your directors with the urban farm. So the Metro Atlanta Urban Farm, because we do have other we're not trying to operate in a silo, that this is going to be, from what I see, an organization that partners with other community organizations and the City of College Park. So I'm going to do all that I can to support this. I already support it, but the continued support. So thank you for sharing.
Sure, and let me shout out the grand opening for Holly's efforts on March 29th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a Saturday at the Brady Center, and I'm anxious to get over there and see that great place.
Councilmember Arnold?
Sure. So I see that this is also being offered to our other areas in the city. How would those citizens that are interested in joining reach out to you?
CharlesHGreen@gmail.com.
All right.
And I'm on a couple of College Park websites. Direct message me through Facebook.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Gay?
Well, Ms. Green, appreciate your efforts. I'm an enthusiast in gardening. But two things that come out to my mind is food well allowance. They have a great program that can partner with y'all immediately,
Grants to
as well as volunteers. Also, Fulton County Master Gardeners. It's a very aggressive group of gardeners that's been around a long time. They actually meet over at Camp Truett through cooperative extension, so you may want to partner with the Fulton County Master Gardeners. And the last thing I would say, always tap into, as Councilwoman McKenzie said, Bobby Wilson. He's a wealth of information. And last thing I would say is, if you could find somewhere to start, find a place for soil. Soil is the biggest challenge. You can apply it anywhere, but without soil, so there's a near the golf course, there's an area over there that has been building over for years, but that's a good place to start building soil, food waste. But without soil, you will just waste your time.
I can get all I want in South Georgia, I just don't have a dump truck. But thank you for that. Just so you know, we're also thinking about Georgia Extension Service through the University of Georgia and all the counties. USDA has a natural resource conservation program that also has a lot of mostly technical advice, and we hope to organize periodic training opportunities where people can come and learn about how to plant, how to grow, and walk away with some seeds or some plants. Also, the Georgia Organics and the Native Plant, Georgia Native Plant Society are resources that we think will augment the experiences we get.
Councilmember, did you say they were an aggressive group of gardeners? The master gardeners? I don't know that I've ever heard gardeners characterized as aggressive.
I don't know aggressive was the right word, but it's a lot of them.
Fair enough.
It's a lot of them. I'm not aggressive. It's a lot of them.
I just never heard aggressive gardeners. It's like an oxymoron, like jumbo shrimp. Like, I feel like gardeners are awesome folks that are pretty non-aggressive. But anyway, but aggressive when it comes to growing things, right?
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Green. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Agenda item 5 is consideration of an action on a request to authorize $2.5 million from the TPD funds to create a park on Godby Road for the planned upcoming reduction in green space within the city, sponsored by Councilwoman Tracy Arnold.
Councilmember Arnold?
Wow, Michelle, we've had you up here a lot tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I was just informed I was here to present for this. I guess we're looking at a Godby Road Park. So, what an opportunity. I'm sorry, Sean.
So I'll add a little more detail to the conversation, which started out with a conversation, I think, that centered around the loss of green space, or the potential loss of green space with the development that is happening, the potential development that's happening in Ward 1. Mayor Pro Tem and I had a conversation, and attached are the documents that talked about the funding that we have received as a city, federal funding for the green space that we have, right? And so balancing out and making sure that we maintain the green space with the addition of a new park on Godby Road to replace what we will potentially be losing is what the documents are that I received from you, Michelle.
So you're talking about for the green space through the Georgia State.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Department of State. So we did have a park, Southside Park, that was is literally now underneath the runway. And that was grant-funded money, so I apologize.
That's okay.
So grant-funded money that when the runway came in, it took away the park. From my understanding with the discussions with them as the Land and Water Conservation, is that these parks have been funded by federal funds, and if we move them, we have to go through, we have to provide to them somewhere else we're going to put it. We have to give a swap for it. From my understanding, Eric Stite, the director at one point in time, it was to be Phillips Park, but I don't think that conversion ever went through, so we are not in compliance with this current. So if we're looking to do any type of Land and Water or Department of, I'm trying to think if I can remember what the name of the grant was, that we are not in compliance, and we'd have to get in compliance in order to receive any more funding for that. I know there was a discussion with the former Economic Development Director, Michelle Alexander, with the Brady Center. They did a conversion, but it wasn't the same grant, so it did not meet. And I believe those grants are Brandon Park was part of the federal funding. I think it was $50,000. Brady Center, the baseball field and the park, and then Southside Park. And they come back and do an audit report, and that information was the information that I provided. And I think I spoke to Councilwoman McKenzie about it also, that we would not be, if we wanted to get this grant, we'd have to somehow be in compliance with that conversion for Southside, which would make sense. And they want the value of the land today, not the value of the land when it was taken back when the fourth or whatever runway took it over. So it would be similar to the same area right around there where that is off of Riverdale Road, how it loops around. It was located right next to the old GICC is where Southside Park was. So if we're looking at, converting and going through and getting compliance on that, we'll need to look at that for Brady Center also, for the baseball field and for the park. We have to go through that conversion and get it approved for the Secretary, I think it was Secretary of Interior, in order to get it approved for that conversion. So that's typically if we're going to look at doing any funding for that.
You want me to? Yeah. Okay. I am so glad that Councilwoman Arnold brought this to our attention as a city, especially in this age of transparency. We want to let everybody know what's going on. And after the conversation you and I had about these protected green spaces that we have in our city, she and I began to talk. And we understood that we are out of compliance right now with Southside. There was a park on the south side. This is for everybody, if you didn't hear Michelle clearly. There was a park on the south side, and that park was protected through the U.S. Secretary of Interior, and it to be deemed to be a green space for perpetuity. And the only way that could be changed was that if we as a city decided we wanted to sell it, or we would have to go through the Secretary of Interior and get permission to do that. I don't know. It's before your time, before all of us our time. I don't think it was done. So as a result, we are in compliance and out of compliance, and we must, as a city, replace that green space which was once called Southside Park. The other issue, why I'm glad, because on page 31 of your packet, and I'd like everybody who has the opportunity to, if you get a chance to look at this workshop agenda packet, page 31 specifically shows us that Brenningham Park, the Brady Field, which is the baseball field of Brady that is a part of the 6 West assemblage, currently being sold as a part of the 55-acre assemblage of 6 West, is a protected field under the Secretary of Interior. And I want the city manager to see this, our economic development director, because my question is, has the Secretary, United States Secretary of Interior, been contacted regarding us selling the Brady Field, which is a historic baseball field, a field that the National Negro League played on, a field that, I don't know if the Atlanta Crackers or whatever, but we had different teams that played, especially our Indians, the College Park Indians. So there's a history, and there's certain things, even though we would like to do with economic development, we need to make sure that we do it right. So page 31 is the actual document from the that was signed, authorized on July 6, 1981, that lets us know that without the express written approval of the Secretary of Interior, that this property may not be converted to any other public outdoor recreation uses without that, or transferred or sold. But back to what Councilwoman Arnold has suggested, my question is the $2.5 million. I see all the information in the packet,
Right.
but where did that number come from? That's all.
It's just an estimation.
An estimation.
Right, it's an estimation. Just like the amount of money that was put into the budget for this year was $600,000 to $700,000 for the cost of recreational, for the playground, right?
Okay.
But we didn't even have land for a playground, so it's an estimate. I don't know that that's going to be the actual amount.
Okay.
However, I would like for us to consider setting aside that amount of money out of the funds to see if we can secure land on Godby Road for a park.
And I did put in for the upcoming budget for the playground, for a playground somewhere on, Godby Road with that same amount, around 600,
Okay.
625. So, but through the conversion too, Jackson Myers and I met talked to them about the conversion, and you talked about paying it back, whatever. And so, and I've talked to other communities. I talked to Cobb County's director, and non-compliance happens.
Yeah.
It happens. They said they're working through some processes too. But as you go along, finding out that you get a letter when they come back and inspect the facilities and find out. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the other thing is, we rely on we request grants and funding from the federal government, and we need to comply. We need to follow. So I know that non-compliance happens, but when you know better, you should do better. And so, I definitely support us getting in compliance and making sure we do have this park on the south side, Godby Road. I would just ask that maybe we could get some more information in terms of before we actually go to a vote, we would just, or allocate that, or are you looking at allocating that in the next year's budget, or how are we looking at?
Possibly just doing a resolution or of some sort to allocate those funds. We haven't really gone out to get a study or to even have any real conversations with the landowner, right? We need to get the land appraised. So there is some more data that needs to be collected. I just wanted us to have a conversation on potentially reserving funds out of the available source of funds that we could use for a park, which would be those TPD funds.
So, Councilmember, you have a particular parcel in mind for this?
There is a particular parcel in mind.
Councilmember Gay?
Well, I appreciate all the conversation about parks and green space and gardens. It's like we can talk about this all night and I wouldn't get bored. So I appreciate all y'all's. I do, support green space on Godby Road. That's just like an amenity that you can't go wrong. Any investment in green space is just as much as an investment in brick and mortar. The TPD funds is an eligible use for parks, so I definitely want to keep that conversation going. I think just to see a green space on Godby Road, that's just a good look. So look forward to continue talking about that. I will say that in Atlanta, there's an organization called Park Pride. And so what that is a group that formed, like he want to do the gardens, to talk about bringing all these parks into one, under one, and they raised, in fact, they changed the whole landscapes of Atlanta parks from probably, I guess, when Park Pride came, I guess, 20 years ago? Since then, you've seen a lot of monies in relationships. It gave us, that Park Pride gave us so many parks in Atlanta. More recently gave us the Rodney Cook Park, which is over near Simpson Road, what we call the Bluff, your Home Depot back door. But that's an example of public-private working together. That's a $34 million park on just several acres. So parks ain't cheap. They're not cheap, but they worth it. So we should continue the conversation about parks and green space. Muhammad Gandhi said, if you got $1, buy some food and buy a flower.
Well, on that note,
Mayor,
Councilmember Carn?
you overlooked me at with the last agenda item. I wanted to comment as well.
My apologies, sir.
Obviously, I think this is a project that needs to happen. I think the more green space we have, the better off we'll be. These are great dynamic things that we're doing in this city that we were not able to do before. And I'm just thankful for the changes that the residents decided to make in terms of representation and direction. Again, that community is long overdue for a full-size community park. So I'm excited about it. We're going to figure out how we get there, but we're going to get there. And we want to make this city accessible and livable and playable for all of our residents, and just up the standards and the quality of living citywide. That's what you see that's been going on here this year. That's what you've seen in all of 2024. Us moving this city in the right direction and turning the ship around. It's what I call progress. And again, we're going to allocate it and figure out where we get it from and keep the progress going. So I'm excited.
All right. So we have run a little bit over with the workshop session. So let's just take a 15-minute break before we meet for the regular session. I would note, Mr. Denmark, 50-14-1G in the Open Meetings Act says that on any other occasion of the meeting of the agency or committee thereof, and so long as a quorum is present in person, a member may participate by teleconference if necessary due to reasons of health or absence from the jurisdiction, so long as the other requirements of this chapter are met. So there is a reference to being absent from the jurisdiction for telephonic participation.
Yes, but it's health or, and it also does not condition your ability to vote on being in the jurisdiction or out of the jurisdiction, which is my point. My point is that there's only one type of participation, which is full participation, whether you're in person or whether you're virtual. You can vote, you can participate in debate, you can do everything that everybody else can do, whether you're in person or otherwise. That's my point. And the out of the jurisdiction issue doesn't impact your ability to vote or to have full, meaningful participation in the meeting.
So you're saying that I can sit at home and participate in a meeting?
Absolutely. People do it all the time.
Okay.
Some people are physically unable to come. That's why if you're sick,
Right.
and you physically can't come down to a meeting.
Right. That's reasons of health.
Right. Right. Exactly. And the statute says health or, it's the disjunctive, or being absent from the jurisdiction.
Right.
So if you're sick at home 2 blocks away, you can participate completely and vote from the comfort of your own home 2 blocks away.
But if you're healthy and you're in the jurisdiction,
Then no, it's health
Or-
out of the jurisdiction. So if you're healthy and nearby, that's different.
then you can't participate telephonically, correct?
Right.
Okay, so that would indicate if Councilmember Carn is in the jurisdiction and he is healthy, he should be here to participate in this in the next meeting,
Right,
correct?
But yes, the council,
Okay.
but the councilman did not indicate why he was not present.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, Councilmember Carn? All right, so I don't think he's,
Just clarification. So basically, if you're in town and you're healthy, you should be here. Now, can you so you can't even participate in the meeting if you're healthy and you're in town? Or is it that you can't vote? Because this wasn't a voting meeting, this was a workshop. So can a person participate?
There's no distinction based on voting. If you are not ill and you're within the jurisdiction, then you have one choice, which is to come down and be physically present and participate. There's no other option available to you.
okay,
Okay, we didn't understand that.
all right. Glad we're clear now. Yes, 8 o'clock. We'll be back at 8 o'clock.